Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time.
Hi, welcome to the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. Today we're talking about what happens if you can't stay independent. You've got that plan for aging in place, but this is taking a look at having that plan B in your back pocket.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's stuff people don't want to talk about. And I think some of the things that we do talk about are stuff that's maybe not quite as pleasant to think about. But I think when you have a plan, then it kind of alleviates that fear in the back of your mind that something could happen and you don't have a plan, right? And so just make the plan and then hope that that's not what you have to, implement necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say the same thing, that gift to yourself of having the information that you need and, having that plan ready alleviates so much heaviness and worry and, tickling at the back of your mind, like, any moment a crisis could come up and you're not ready.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just bury their head in the sand and feel like, okay, well, I'll just deal with that when it comes. But honestly, when you're in crisis, dealing with it is the absolute worst time to do that. Yeah. So what we're hoping in all of the things that we talk about are that you create a plan or create a space where you are ready for whatever comes, and then hopefully only really fantastic things come.
Absolutely. I'm Heather Fisher.
I'm Jody Roscoe.
And let's dive into a couple parts of that Plan B that make it a complete strategy and able to have there waiting if you ever need it.
Yeah. So planning for Plan B, it's not a failure. It's not, you're assuming bad things are going to happen. It's not a pessimistic thing. It's actually a positive thing, trying to alleviate some of that nervousness or guilt or, fear that something might go wrong and you won't know what to do. And nearly 70% of adults over 65 are going to need some form of long-term care. 70% is a big number. And so just knowing what that could look like will help not only your brain, but the people who care about you's brain as well.
Yeah, I think that as adult children ourselves, we see those pieces where we have a worry of our parents and wanting to know, do they have a plan? How can we help them come up with that plan? And, what their wishes would be for different situations that might come up so that we can easily be a help.
And I think what you said earlier, it's a gift to, everyone. I think that is so, so true. Because if you're in denial or you're, just afraid to think about it or you don't want to take the next steps, crisis decisions usually happen fast and they happen emotionally, and you might not even be making the decisions yourself. The kids might be making the decisions, or somebody that you care about might be making the decisions. So when you plan, it just gives you so many more opportunity to make thoughtful decisions, and it gives you more choices of decisions to make the earlier that you do it.
Yeah, and it actually reinforces the independence that is one of the presiding reasons why people avoid this Plan B, because they are just fiercely determined to stay independent. But by having this plan in place, it's the best way to, be independent in your finances and your decisions and, your health care, all of that, because you have it all planned out.
Yeah, our brains really don't like the unknown. Mm-hmm. They really don't like it. And so unknown can be paralyzing. And the other thing is, if it ends up into some kind of a crisis situation and your kids or your loved ones or somebody that you care about has to make decisions for you, sometimes there's a lot of guilt around that because they don't know what you want. And so, having them just know and not and removing that guilt or that uncertainty is really, really helpful for people.
Yeah, it's like a instruction manual that's a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
I want this, but if this happens instead, here's what you do. If this happens instead, here's what I want.
Right. So even though the conversations might be hard or uncomfortable or weird, when they're done, you're going to feel better, and the people that you're talking to about what needs to happen will feel better too. Everybody will know that you're all on the same page. So 5 pillars for a solid plan B. Number 1 is medical and health decisions. So that is like, who is going to speak for you if you can't? And what paperwork do you need to make that happen so that they can speak for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And just making sure you've taken that final step of the wishes you have and making those legal documents, because when it comes to finances and healthcare, those rules are stringent to have that paperwork in order and current to your current wishes. It might be outdated. And having that all in line just gives you that peace of mind that the people you've told what you do want are able to make those things happen for you.
Yeah, you absolutely need a healthcare proxy. You need a medical power of attorney, and you need a living will. And so you may need an attorney to help you put that together. But hospitals can't just share information without proper paperwork. And so you want to make sure that you have that proper paperwork and everybody knows where it is. So you want to make sure that that's all up to date. And that's something you want to look at actually, every 6 months or a year or something. And all of this is stuff that you probably need to review, on a yearly basis at minimum, or if something big comes up. But you're also going to want to keep a list of the medications that you take, because if you go to the hospital in crisis situation, the hospital's going to want to know what that is, and you think, oh, but they have it all on file, and yeah, I know, but they still want the list of all of the things. I remember my mom, my grandma was taking like 12 medicines or 15, and like a bag full of medicines, and I remember her like going to the cupboard and trying to write down every medicine, that she was taking, because the hospital was asking questions that she didn't know the answers to. And so, yeah.
I think, as coming from experience, another good list to have and keep updated is your list of doctors and healthcare providers by specialty. Yeah. I know, if there's a crisis, your loved one might end up in the emergency room, but that's a whole new set of doctors, and a lot of this information might be available if you knew who to contact for those records and information to be passed back and forth. But for my parents, I'm like, I know you go to the cardiologist, but I don't know their name or phone number. Just having that list in one place. Yep,
list of doctors and list of medications. Who you're picking for your power of attorney, or your medical power of attorney, should be somebody that's calm under pressure. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the oldest child, or specific. Like, pick somebody who's going to be calm and listen to what you want your decisions to be. You need to talk about what quality of life wishes that you have, because there may be situations where you want something different to happen. So talk about all of that stuff.
Yeah, definitely talk about that role beyond just naming them and that being a surprise to someone.
Right. Oh, you're the one who's going to make the decisions, and I don't know what decisions you want me to make.
Yeah. So just having that full conversation of what that role looks like to you and what you would like them to do.
Yep. So about housing, about medical treatment, end of care, life care, all of that stuff. So, yeah. Okay. So, secondly, sorry, I got a little lost here. Okay, so housing care. So basically there are all kinds of options here. So that's something that you need to think about. So do you want in-home help? Do you want to go to a community that has independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing? If you need to, we talk about this a lot, go tour places, go tour them and see what you like and see what you might, feel comfortable in. And some places have no care. Some places have independent care and they have assisted living, but they don't have memory care or skilled nursing. So know where you're going, because if you get to a place where you might need memory care or skilled nursing, is it okay for you to move to a different place? Are you good with that? Or are you like, no, I need to be in some place where I can be there the whole time should something happen where I need that.
Yeah, and knowing, prices are subject to change if this is years away, but getting a general sense of the finances at the places that you're interested in. We know from touring so many, some places are more of a rental situation. Yeah. Some require a large endowment up front. Some give you ownership. Some don't. I mean, there's a whole gamut, and those fit differently to different people's financial situation and what that looks like for future planning. So gather that information as well, even if you're not ready, so you don't just fall in love with a community and then realize it doesn't fit the picture you're looking for with your finances.
Yeah, and if you need help with this and you're thinking I'm ready to move to a community soon, there are people whose job it is to help you navigate what communities are better, and it's usually a free service to you. So if you have questions about that, please reach out to us at downsizingroadmap.com, and we can kind of direct you in a way that
we've got some great resources for that. Yeah,
because that can be overwhelming. You can be like, I don't know. And some place, just because it's pretty doesn't mean it has the perfect care. And so you just need to know what's going to work well for you, for your care, for your lifestyle, for your finances, like all of that.
Yeah, and that includes in-home care. Mm-hmm. Just getting a sense of the cost of that. I know we've been in informational seminars before where full-time 24-hour in-home care is the most expensive option. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes people think, oh, well, I'm staying at home, so it can't cost nearly as much, but you're getting that one-on-one person in your home. So something to consider, just, for the time you need a little bit of care, that's the path you want to go down until what changes that moves it to the next level.
I think many people want to stay. They're like, I just want to stay at home. And I think they don't realize the cost of what that is. And because the cost is so high, what that usually means that you're going to have, some kind of a support system of your family and your friends or whatever that looks like, because the cost is really high if you have nursing care 24 hours a day. And so things to think about, who would that be? It's okay if you have a group of people that are good and you want to, you have a great support system and they can create a calendar and it all, works, but it's all conversations that need to be had. So it's not just kind of like a willy-nilly, like, oh, well, this one person's going to go ahead and take care of me all the time, every day. And, that's
a surprise that you're not expecting.
Yeah. And some people thrive socially in, communities because isolation, being home 24 hours a day by yourself isn't good for us, honestly. Yeah. So that's something to think about as well. And also, if you are going to stay at home, you may need to talk to a company or somebody about grab bars and about ways to make it safe at home, first floor living, what kind of lighting there is, how many stairs there are, how you're going to navigate all of those things. So
if this is a future down the road plan B, and your ultimate goal is to age at home, are you in the right home to set yourself
age in
up
place? Yeah.
To do that is another part of that plan.
Yep. Okay, the third pillar is financial readiness. So do you know what that care could cost? So average assisted living is somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000 a month. And that's not nursing care. That's not skilled nursing care or memory care or any of that. That is assisted living. So do you have long-term care insurance? Who has it and what does it cover? Yeah. You might have been paying on that a long time. If you already are a little bit older, long-term care insurance may just be out of the reach of money, to spend. Like long-term care insurance is something you probably need to get, and when you're a little bit earlier, to have it even be a reasonable amount of money.
Well, and I would say if you did get it earlier, make sure you review back to that declaration page as to what it covers you. Is it a lump sum available for whatever you need? Is it a daily supplement, which may not cover the full cost of what you're thinking it will.
Right.
There's a lot of caveats. So if it's been a long time and you've just been paying on it, that's great. But just make sure, if you're talking to estate planners or financial planners, that you don't just assume you have that as a bucket that will solve a problem until you either review it yourself or have someone else explain, how your policy actually works.
Right. They're all different, and some of them were made a long time ago, and what seemed like was going to be, covering things may or may not do that. So
yeah, we had that happen in my own family, and my parents had bought it many, many years ago. And when it came time to needing it for my dad, the only mental trigger my mom had was her recollection of, the salesman per se at the kitchen table selling it to them
years ago,
at least 25 years prior to when it was needed. And the nuts and bolts of the policy were still a big help, and, glad that they had it, but it wasn't quite what she anticipated working logistically the way she anticipated. So just make sure you review what your benefits actually are.
And while you're at it, all your paperwork needs to be in order. So we've talked about that, getting all of your paperwork together. And you might be even, it might even be time to talk to, a state lawyer or elder care lawyer that can help you protect some of your assets if that needs to happen. It might be worthwhile to have that conversation, especially if you're already talking to somebody, a lawyer that you're going to get your power of attorney and living will, all of that stuff. It may be just a whole package of talking to an estate attorney about what financially that could look like, and how do you need it in a trust? Do you not need it in a trust? Like, they have answers to all of those questions, and you'll want to get all of your paperwork, your accounts, your passwords, all of your policies in one place. You need to do this anyways. All of us need to do this, no matter how old you are, because anybody could, have to go into the hospital for a minute and have somebody have to take over paying their bills or, looking after that stuff. So paperwork needs to be all together in one place, and the people that you care about need to know where it is. All of that.
I think there's two levels of that question. The one is asking yourself, could someone step in tomorrow and pay my bills and manage my household? So that would be, the passwords for your bank accounts and, all of those day-to-day pieces. Where do bills come by email or postal mail? Where can someone look for it? And then that other layer of, could my finances be easily sorted out, in a permanent basis if you're no longer here? And that's things like making sure you've named a beneficiary to your bank accounts and your car, and, all of the, whether it's a trust or a different plan with your estate attorney, both that day-to-day level and that long-term planning.
Yeah. And the other thing is, you may need some emergency funds for transition. So do you have those in place? Is the money all in your house? If that's the case, maybe we need to get, a little second, mortgage on the house, just to give you an opportunity to take some of the money from the house and make your transition. There's lots of ways that can be handled. But you want to make sure that you do have a little bit of a bucket of money for transition time, because that can come quickly, and they can be like, okay, here's how much money we need. And you might have access to it, but not liquid access to it. So know what that can look like.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fourth pillar is legal authority. So we already talked a little bit about that, but make sure that you have your durable power of attorney, that you have a will, that your beneficiaries are listed on all of your things. Maybe your bank account needs to be shared with somebody, maybe not. But all of that is going to determine what happens if you don't have them, and eventually, when you're gone, what happens if you don't have them. Is your property going through probate? Is there a delay? Is there stress in the family on that, or can we make that a smoother transition? Whatever that looks like.
That can be planning ahead for your funeral and those arrangements to get through that transition as well. Just having that peace of mind, knowing that's all handled.
Yeah, and having the documents is part of it, but knowing what the person that needs to know where they are, knowing where they are, and all of that, knowing who the lawyer is if they have questions, all of that information is important. And the other thing is, again, this stuff needs to be reviewed. You need to set it up, but then it needs to be reviewed annually, maybe. But also, if there's a death, if there's a divorce, if there's a remarriage,
more children born into your family
right,
that you may want to include in what you're passing on.
If you relocate to a different state, to make sure that it's okay in whatever state that you're in. So, any kind of big life changes, you want to also take a look at it again.
Yeah. And if you've done the hard work of having the baseline all set up, those reviews should be much simpler than sorting through it all at once, in a crisis.
Yeah, and we've talked about this on each level, but the fifth one is the communication plan. Like, who knows the plan?
Who knows where the passwords are?
What the plan is, and how often do you revisit that? And you need to probably keep it all in a life binder or a filing drawer cabinet, like one that's fireproof, if possible. Yeah. Keep it all together so that somebody could easily find it, knows where it is, and it's organized in a way that they can use it without even you helping them, right? So not things that need to be all explained and, this is here, but then that's over in that other drawer, and then this is over, just all together.
Yeah, and clearly labeled, I think, too, especially if you're holding on to old paperwork for whatever reason that you are, but it's accounts you don't have anymore or things like that. That becomes very confusing. Mm-hmm. Like, this one looks like a mortgage, this one looks like a mortgage, this one looks like a mortgage, but it could have been refinances through the years. They could all be paid off.
Bank accounts that have been closed. I had that with my mom, and I had to call all the places. They're like, to find out if it was still real or not real. You don't know all of the things.
So we talk about that often when we're talking about downsizing paperwork, but we all end up with file cabinets where you keep filing the new stuff, and even if it's organized when it goes in, this is the bank for the mortgage or whatever, if you don't retake that out or at least write on the cover of the folder that it was paid off and here's the date, you just create a lot of confusion by not going through and auditing that. Yeah.
You definitely, some other things that we haven't really talked about. So in this communication plan, we're going to talk about everything. Your stuff, your wishes for your funeral, like all of that stuff, your pets, what's going to happen to your pets, like have a conversation with that, with somebody about that. Even your home maintenance contacts, who's mowing the lawn, who's doing things that, they're going to have to contact them and tell them, keep doing this, don't keep doing this, whatever, all of the things. So whatever you're paying anybody for anything, that all needs to be kind of laid out so somebody could come follow behind and make sure you have your password to your phone in there as well, if you have a password to your phone, because if anybody's trying to figure out what your password is because you didn't leave them all, and then they try to reset it, they'll send something to the phone, and if you can't open the phone to find it, that's also a problem. So
yeah, that daily service list is super helpful if you're just moving to a community and your adult kids are helping with the house. If they know who you routinely call for your HVAC or your plumbing, or they know they need to reach out to the lawn service to continue during the transition and cancel on whatever date, when that's all gathered, that can easily take some of that burden of the transition off of everyone's plate. It's much faster.
Because, if a crisis happens, it's already stressful. Like, we don't need more stress on now who do I do this, and, lots of figuring out of things. Like, we need as much calm as possible.
Yeah, and if you can quickly solve some of these things, you can streamline the process and, save little money bleeds. Like, okay, we can cancel the cable because we're not living here. We can, cancel the landline phone because no one's here. And, they can be smaller amounts, but they all add up. And when you're making that transition, you want your finances to be serving you, not paying for services at a house you don't live in.
Well, and if your family is scrambling trying to figure out this and that and the other thing, they're not spending the time with you because they're doing that. They would much rather be spending the time with you. So, yeah. All right, segment 3. What if you don't have somebody? What if you're planning this as a solo ager? Like, what if you don't have kids that you can say, okay, this is the person, or, brothers and sisters or whatever. So it's important for you to just build a circle of trust, even if it's not your family. So whoever that is doesn't have to be your family, but you just have to have the right paperwork to show that this is the person that you want to make the decisions for you.
Yeah, sometimes that can be your attorney, acting as your representative. Sometimes it's a close family friend or a more distant relative that you're still close to, even if the relationship technically is more distant, a cousin or something like that. But just having that support system in place.
Yeah, we see nieces and nephews and all of that stuff. There are geriatric care managers that you can also hire to do that. So lots of options.
There's some great patient advocates as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a community and you're just having some trouble solving some issues that are feeling like problems, there are great patient advocates that can step in and help you navigate talking with staff and directors if you need that and don't have a team from your family helping.
Yeah, and maybe the neighbors can help. Maybe they help, mow the lawn or have somebody, or, pull in some other people. But honestly, our friends are our family that we pick, right? And so those people are probably the ones that you need to really reach out to and figure out what that looks like. And if you don't want to put burden on them, then I would say attorney or some kind of a care provider.
Yeah, absolutely. We see that so often as we're dealing with that interim time of someone's moved to a community and the house is getting ready to go on the market, but not yet. And, the neighbor mows for me. And we met so many neighbors at the door coming to check on the process. And
or they
volunteer.
Drive you places or grab your groceries or, all of the things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's just about creating the community if you don't have that, those blood ties.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely.
All right. So what are signs when it's time to reevaluate your independence? So what kind of red flags are we talking about that might maybe think, hey, I probably need to do something here? So multiple falls. This is so common. Falling at home is so common.
Yeah.
And so if that's happening, that's probably indication that the place that you are isn't working for you.
Yeah, and stage 1 could be making it more mobility friendly, removing some area rugs or fixing some trip hazards. And then step 2, if that advances, is okay, we went through that phase, now it's still not working. What's the next step?
Yeah. Medication mismanagement, you're forgetting to take your medication. Maybe you've missed some bills over confusion, or some confusion over money. Maybe hygiene changes are happening. You're not taking a shower as often because that's really difficult, or things like that. Isolation and withdrawal are also signs that you're not doing as well by yourself as you thought you might want to be. You don't want to do the things that you used to do, all of that. So we both of our families ended up in houses where the full baths were upstairs and the stairs were a problem. And so I think just noticing and accepting that that's what's going on, and being willing to move forward in a different direction with it.
Yeah, I think that nutrition changes is a big one too.
Yeah.
And sometimes, that can be from various reasons. It could be the difficulty of getting out from the house to bring groceries in. It could be the energy and managing cooking, and preparing the food. It could be some memory issues of just forgetting, 3 meals a day and not noticing when you've missed a meal.
My grandma would be like, I'm just going to have some tea and toast.
Yeah. Yeah, and a
But
lot
that
of times
doesn't have a lot
that's the energy drain
right.
of
It's too much.
I can do that easily, and the alternative is a lot more than I can handle today or every day.
Right. But tea and toast doesn't have a lot of nutritional value. And so you've got to be careful with that. So maybe you reframe your support, right? Maybe you get a housekeeper to help you clean a little bit. Or maybe you have meal deliveries or, do something like that. Maybe you get some people to help with transportation and medication management. Even in the beginning, it can just be, the box that you fill at the beginning of the week, and then you just know which pills you're supposed to be taking. And if they're gone out of the little section of the container, you took them.
Yeah.
So none of it all, it kind of is a slow progression, right? And so, but if that's where you're at, then maybe that's something that you need to look forward into what the next steps are going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. There are definitely graduated red flags, and you start noticing them, and then there are initial solutions you can put in place until those are also showing the red flags of not working any longer.
And I think what happens is because it happens slowly, we just get used to it for ourselves. And we're like, oh, this is just hard, but I'm just used. And then it gets harder and you just kind of suck it up. And instead, maybe having that courage to ask yourself, like, what support could make this better? Like, this isn't working. What could make it better? How could we, fix it a little bit?
Yeah, and that is back to what we say all the time, our 5 steps, that dream it. If these things are just making life harder for you, how can you free that burden and, get a little more ease with a solution?
Right. So, and they're not failures, it's signals. They're just telling you what's going on. So you just have to listen to the signals sometimes. So,
yeah.
Okay. So segment 5, what peace of mind is actually going to look like once you've done these things?
Yeah.
So you're going to sleep better at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your loved ones are going to know what you want, and so that's going to let them sleep better at night. Because, honestly, because I didn't know my mom didn't want to talk about all of this stuff, and I tried to get her to talk about it, and she did not want to. But that really gave me, anxiety because I was like, I don't really know what she wants, and then I guess at the end of it all, it was like, well, it must not have been that important to her, so I'm going to have to make the decisions. But it still felt heavy. It still felt really heavy. And I think everybody will feel lighter if you have these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely.
You also avoid reactive or high stress decisions when you're in crisis. And sometimes when we are in high stress and we're being reactive, we don't make the best decisions.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we're clear thinking and being able to make those decisions from a place of thoughtfulness and not a place of panic. And so that will also make you feel better that you know what the path is. Hopefully the path won't be here for quite some time, but you know what it is.
Yeah, and the best decisions, they just take time and information gathering. And when it's in the midst of a crisis, we fully experienced this with my dad, and you just have to make those decisions so quickly that you are getting a minimum baseline of information and making decisions that feel more like, well, that's good enough. We gotta decide. And it's like a frenzy,
right?
A crisis point where you don't know for sure if you made the best decision,
right? Because
you didn't have time to sit back and think it through carefully.
Right. So, and this can bring your family closer together. Once everybody knows what everybody wants, it can bring you closer together. And people who are people tend to recover more quickly when they have a system or a plan in place because they just are following down that path. That anxiety and kind of craziness that happens when you don't know what's going on can also set you back physically.
Yeah. So taking a look at, what's been on your mind and what is kind of that worry that is unsettled piece. I know for me, there's paperwork that we need to get organized, my husband and I, and I'm like, okay, we need to do that. And I feel that pressure, even though it's not a critical, I need it by tomorrow,
right?
Looking for that peace of mind. So I think the best question you could ask yourself is, what would your future self thank you for setting up today?
Yeah. Yeah, so just imagine what it would be like if it was all set up, right? So a fall happens. It's okay. I mean, it's not great, but you know where you're going. You might go into the hospital for a little bit, but when the hospital is ready to discharge you, they're like, hey, you're looking good. We're going to give you about an hour. We're going to get you out of here. And, here's a list of places to go. But that doesn't freak you out because you already know where you're going.
Yeah.
Instead of going, oh my gosh, how do I even pick places from this list of, that you have no idea, right?
And your adult kids show up and you say, okay, they're saying I'm going to be in rehab for 2 or 3 weeks. That blue folder in the top desk drawer, you can double check on all the bills. They should be good, but everything's in there.
Yep. We already have a healthcare power of attorney and a financial one. So everything is taken care of. It's clear what the arrangements are. I know where I want to go. So your family's not scrambling or guessing or doing anything. They're just supporting you, and they're like, oh, great, let me call this phone number that's right there, and it's just handled.
Yep. If you call Susie next door, she'll be happy to collect the mail and bring it inside. Those are the kinds of things that are very small, but they bring that peace of mind that you can get through a situation.
Yeah, I think they're big things. I know. I know they seem like small things, but having lived it in the other way, it's definitely they're big things.
Added together, it's the biggest gift you can give yourself and others.
Yep. So, all right. So what the steps are, we're going to talk about Plan B with our trusted family members or friends. Identify who has your medical and legal authority. Tour a couple places, right? Make a binder so that you know all of your passwords and all of the, accounts and all of that stuff. And then you're going to relook at it once a year, and then you're going to go on and live your life and feel great about knowing that if something were to happen, you're ready for it, and hopefully it's not going to happen.
Yeah, if you need help gathering the information to start this conversation with your family, we've got lots of blog articles and information on our website, downsizingroadmap.com. And if you're ready for someone to kind of help you do this whole strategy, including a future move, reach out to us at the website, downsizingroadmap.com/help, and we'll connect you with the resources that you need for each step of this.
Yep.
Okay,
Get
thanks,
planning.
guys. Yep, we'll talk to you next time.
All right, bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.